In 1953, my father, who had a master's in engineering, had left Alabama to come to Illinois for employment. There he was given an opportunity, a phenomenal opportunity as an engineer. And ultimately he brought the remainder of the family back. He and my grandfather brought, but my father did not want to raise the family in Chicago. Though Lake Forest was closer to Chicago, he wanted more of a setting, a familial setting, similar to the South, a smaller community. So he elected Milwaukee. So he and my mother anchored here, and in anchoring here in Milwaukee, my mother, who was both obviously a PK, the pastor's kid, by her father being the pastor of First Baptist, and my grandmother, who was a profound and prolific prayer warrior, provided foundation, spiritual foundation. And then even his mother, my great-grandmother, she was an evangelist missionary, and she worked with the Church of God and the apostolic movement. And so she was deeply engaged in Pentecostalism. So that brought to our family kind of a Pentecostal sagacity combined with the tradition of the Baptist Church. Bishop Owens, the former presiding bishop of the Church of God in Christ, Chandler David Owens, lived like a block away from my grandparents or our native home in Birmingham. And many of the young people then were members of the Church of God in Christ. So my mother would leave the Baptist church, her father's church, after service. She was the pianist. And then they would go to the Sanctified Church. And so that's kind of been our tradition from then. And that goes all the way back to the 1920s until now. The appreciation for ecumenical worship and engagement in diverse communities. So here, Mother Daniels, and the street for the church is named after her, served as a nurse, and she also served as a social worker. And religiously, she served as a state supervisor of women for Wisconsin. So her mission, compassion, her love for education, for children, for families, more or less became the bedrock for the development and the compassion that she instilled in all of her children. For one, my grandmother was also sanctified, who was his wife, her mother, our maternal grandmother. Yes. And so she was a member of the church. She was a member of both churches. In fact, my grandfather had made an arrangement with the family saying, I have no problem with you all, in the days when it was not popular.
Yes.
I have no problem with you all going to the Church of God in Christ and even engaging, as long as you first come to First Baptist, so that I have peace at my home church where I pastor and you engage yourselves. So very uncommon. So my grandfather was, and he was one of the few ministers that the Church of God in Christ would even allow to preach in their churches. And so in Detroit at the Wright Museum, there is a clipping of my grandfather during the civil rights movement of his preaching and praying, and it gives you the flavor. If I could ever preach half as profoundly as him, I would be just so appreciative.
If you follow him, he'll lead you out. If you've been in the dark and then want to be led out in the light, you follow Jesus. If you've been down and then want to be picked up, you follow Jesus. He'll lift you up. He'll stand you on your feet.
I see now how God was instilling the best of those foundations into the circle of our family. My father is slightly different because he did not stop my mother from embracing strong religious tenets. He knew when he married her that she was a PK and that wasn't going to change. So we have a blend of rich tradition and my mother's commitment to Christendom and humanity caused and forged such strong values to help others. I suppose in the long and short, that is more so what I'm saying.
God bless the Sanctuary Choir. They are the most beautiful choir in the world. I don't know any choir, anywhere. I don't want to sound like I'm prejudice or partial, but of a truth. But I want the Lord to continue to bless them, to sing to the glory and the honor of God, and that they would adorn themselves and to the gospel of Christ, and everybody see Christ in their life as they go forth singing.
Her work, she believed in education, she believed in training, she believed in teaching. My father was a very hard worker. He died prematurely of a heart attack. And ironically, my father and my grandfather died 7 months apart from each other. My grandfather died preaching. He was at the Baptist College in Alabama. He was teaching a lesson on hermeneutics, sat down at the Baptist College and lowered his head. They thought he was simply just lowering his head. He had died.
Somebody been running a long time. Somebody been running and haven't got tired. Somebody been loaded down. Somebody who loved us. Somebody that's bigger than me. That got on the load that I will carry. Help me bear my burden.
So my oldest brother, Dr. Sedgwick Daniels, became, in a very real way, the spiritual male anchor in our family. And my mother and grandmother was sort of like Timothy's mother and grandmother, Lois and Eunice. And so they provided phenomenal foundation, prayer, support, etc. My home church, Westside, is what then afforded me the ability under Bishop Flakes to plant and establish Holy Redeemer in the 80s. In 86, I began pastoring the Holy Redeemer Church of God in Christ. And then after which Bishop Flakes entrusted me. He came because I was extremely committed to whatever he needed to have done and appointed me a district superintendent. And then we had oversight over churches within the jurisdiction. After the, and that was in the 80s as well, probably about 89 or thereabout, is when he had appointed me as superintendent, maybe 90. And Bishop was an older man. And when Bishop Flakes, in 1999, he then contemplated emeritization. And when he decided to become emeritus, the church was in transition. In the 2000 election, Bishop Chandler David Owens, Bishop G.E. Patterson. And so after the settling of the matter of presiding bishop, Bishop G.E. Patterson becoming the presiding bishop, then Bishop Flakes officially retired. And there was a polling. Bishop G.E. came to Wisconsin, and I overwhelmingly was recommended. There were approximately 45 churches. And I received about 40 recommendations from the pastors to serve as the bishop for Wisconsin First Jurisdiction. And so Bishop Flakes and I entreated him as a father until the Lord called him home, and it afforded me for us to work together. And he passed in his 90s. He said while he was living that the Lord had spoken to him and told him that I would be on the general board. And he said, I pray that God would allow me to live to sow seed. Bishop G.E. Patterson gave me opportunity, phenomenal opportunity. He appointed me as chairman of the Constitutional Convention for the church when we began to review and discuss how we would shape and how we would form the life and the ministry of the Church of God in Christ for the future. With that particular assignment that was afforded me, it allowed me a number of things. One of those things being was national exposure. And with that national exposure, what happened is that I was able to then have additional inroads for many of the folk that I already knew and the relationships I had already built as a pastor, as one who was working within the various confines of our denomination. So in 2008, first in 2004, I was nominated to be a member of the general board. And it caught me off guard. I did not know it. It was just off the floor.
Wow.
Someone had gotten up and said, based off what they had seen in performance, they wanted. And so I stood up and declined. I said, I respectfully appreciate the nomination, but I would like for my name to be removed. But in 2008, the Midwest bishops felt that We have not had a representative on our board since the transition of Bishop Ford, and that the Midwest is, if not the strongest, one of the strongest supporters of the Church of God in Christ. And there were 4 individuals that all of the bishops agreed to endorse, and I was one of those 4, and from our region. And the Lord just allowed me to come in, I think, number 5, of 30 something. And both times that I was presented was number 5. Over the past 30 years, there's been the development of about 40 ministries that range from, as you see, we built this building next door, and every aspect of what we do has a phenomenal story behind it itself. That particular situation was an abandoned warehouse, and we did a $15 million adaptive reuse to turn it into a youth service center where the Boys and Girls Club has space that we allow them to use. The kindergarten through 12th grade for religious schools. There are 4 schools on our campus, full-blown social service agency, a credit union, a health clinic, and a list of a plethora of services. Senior citizen building across the complex across the street, a residential care center for children who are under the ward of the state, actually from 12 to 21, that's certified through the state. The development of massive housing units and projects that we have that we call Bishop's Creek Development, the hotel that we are now working on to build across just south of our campus, and a number of services that are provided. Our focus: economics, education, housing, family development, all of those things, and community empowerment, core around our foundational faith and tenets about the mission of Jesus Christ, to go out into the world and to enhance and improve the quality of life of others. So whatever we do, we've taken it as we see a need, we develop a seed, and we watch it grow. Truthfully, everything that we've started, I don't want to sit here and suggest by any stretch of the imagination, because sometimes, because of the affluence of members of my family and the various accomplishments and successes they've made, there is the belief that all of a sudden that the Daniels family has done this, and that's not true. It's hardworking people in our church and partners who have supported and embraced the faith journey of mothers and deacons and elders and members and neighbors and drunks that walk up and say, "Hey man, I like what you doing," So all of that, plays into it, and so it's relation building. It does not go without pain. I paid a dear, dear, dear price, an enormous price. I can't even begin to share with you the wounds, but for 30 years we've been able to provide, and we're still standing. So I think that those are the number of things. We started with 8 members on roll, which does not mean 8. You always use 20% of whatever you say. So I had 2 members, and whatever. And there are thousands, 4,000 or 5,000 that subscribe to membership of this church now. Jurisdiction, there are about 100 churches that subscribe to membership. We've done our best to make inroads and impacts to empower the lives of others. There are great people who have provided. I mentioned Bishop Owens, I mentioned Bishop G.E. Patterson, Bishop J.O. Patterson, Bishop Charles Blake has provided phenomenal guidance, and that many years, 30 some odd years ago, he had church growth conferences that literally taught people how to grow and develop churches. Bishop Owens actually physically came here, and in his coming, he dedicated much of the property. He established, he did the prayer, he spoke faith, he spoke in the face of adversity and disappointments. And when we were constructing our church, it was Bishop Owens, who was the presiding bishop, who said, he took me as his son, because obviously we're from Alabama.
Yes.
And he said, it's gonna happen. Bishop W.L. Porter came from Memphis. I'm talking about Brandon Porter's father. And he drove me around all day to help me pick out this site where the church should be. And Bishop L.H. Ford told me when he was presiding bishop, "Son, don't you leave the central city. I know you can go way out, but I want you to stay right here." So those are, situations. Bishop Porter drove me to Chicago and showed me his brother's housing. And they put into us for the next generation. They said, "We want you to go places we didn't go," and that's what we're trying to do. I'm probably a good example to say that God can use ordinary people. There's nothing extraordinary or profound that has to be within the confines of a person, just a willing mind and the willingness and capacity to surrender. Our philosophy here at Holy Redeemer is that there is nothing too hard for God.